Hello and welcome to Happily Ever After. It's me, Hannah, and today I'd like to talk about this concept of enough. It's kind of one of those things that, in terms of like negative belief systems, it's a really common one that so many of us have got of like, I'm not enough, like, I'm not doing enough, like, not good enough, that kind of thing. Um, I guess I've just been kind of mulling on this idea of what is enough because it's just such a weird concept for me, given the fact that I come from a background of having a drinking problem, for example. Like, there was no such thing as enough alcohol for me. I just kept going until there was none left in the house where I passed out. Fun. And yeah, so enough just didn't really exist with that. And it also kind of, I kind of can never get enough sugar. I can't quite get enough coffee. Um, so if you're someone who doesn't understand moderation and what feels enough, like what does feeling enough, as in I'm good enough, actually even mean? Like, how can you ever feel good enough if you haven't got that concept of enough in you? Or at least it's got kind of lost, I guess. Like, can you train yourself to notice what feels enough? I think you can when it comes to things like food, but I'm very good at that either. Um, so yeah, for me these days, alcohol, like enough alcohol is none. Having zero alcohol is enough for me. So that doesn't really resonate with anything to do with being enough in terms of my personality. Like, how can I be good enough if zero is enough in some situations? And, even sugar, like, I really should give that a wide berth as well. So, how am I meant to feel enough? Like I'm doing enough or I'm being enough? Am I working enough? Do you see what I mean? Like, how are we meant to tie these two things together when enough can sometimes be the entire pub, or enough can also be none? Like, it just doesn't really work as a concept for me anymore. Um, did I do enough to save my marriage? No, probably not. But I did do my best. And doing your best is a very different concept to enough, isn't it? It's like comes from very, very different places. Like, enough can feel judgy. Like, I think you've had enough. Like, fuck off. I'll tell you when I've had enough. Um, or you've not done enough. Like, I remember having that conversation with my ex of like, do you really believe you did enough? And I'm like, I don't think it matters, because what matters is I did my best in the circumstances with the information I had available to me. So enough versus you did your best, it just feels like you did your best has so much more compassion in it. Like, I did my best allows you to feel a sense of accomplishment versus I did it, I don't know, you didn't do enough, or what's enough, and not fully getting the concept of what enough is. So it just feels to me like it comes from totally different places. I did my best in my marriage. He did his best with what we had. The end. Um, so I've been grappling with that little nugget. So you'll have to let me know what you think. Does that resonate in any way? And is there a possibility that we could reframe some of this stuff so that I'm not enough is something that we can just go, come on, how about we're just all doing our best in this circumstance? Um, yeah, so for me, one of the hardest part of divorcing, alongside, breaking up your family home and all that, like immediate, really tricky stuff, was yeah, one of the hardest things was all around this concept of, well, who am I now? Like, I'm not a wife anymore. So I've lost my other half. I'm no longer a full-time mum. So you feel like half a parent. And, you can't really do much about being half a parent, but I really tried very hard to not be a single person. Um, hunting high and low for Mr. Right. And yeah, it turns out that was like a really terrible idea. And it made me feel worse and worse as I kind of carried on that kind of hunt. But luckily for me, I had a really great support network around me who could kind of help to steer some of this stuff. And they steered me towards Amber Horrocks. So if you listen to episode 57, she talked me through all of her kind of processing of this being a single person and making it okay. Um, so yeah, in episode 57, she talked to me all about her sex ban, and that was hugely transformative. I don't know whether it's because of the way that we're raised, like being growing up in the 80s and 90s, like being in a relationship was almost one of the most important things. If you watch back Sex and the City and all that stuff, it's like it's front and center. Who are you dating? Who are you going to marry? Like that was a big deal, wasn't it? Or it certainly was in my circles. So I'm not sure I ever actually learned what it means to be completely on your own and to be a single person. So the act of actually saying, well, I'm not going to date anybody for a while, I'm just going to be on my own, was deeply uncomfortable. But it also helped me to, I guess, like sit with some of those feelings, and it helped me define myself as an individual. Like, who am I? What am I into? Um, what makes me upset when I'm on my own and when I'm sitting at home and feeling lonely? But also to find out what I really want from someone else. If I'm going to have somebody else in my life, like what is it I'm looking for? Like, not just somebody to make me feel complete, because turns out no other person can actually do that for you. Only you can. And yeah, and not somebody to make me feel enough. Am I enough? Am I good enough? So that was really interesting. And it helped me find out what what life can be like if you take pressure off yourself from finding another person. I guess that's where I'm going with that. Like the hunt for somebody, if you feel in like you're not enough, can be quite all consuming and a bit of a roller coaster and not really that fun, actually. Um, and it can feel like you're the only person in the world who's single, and everybody else has got their shit together and they're happily in their little bubbles and they found their soulmate and all that kind of stuff. But how many people are in relationships they're not happy with? How many people are sitting next to somebody who they're like, oh, I wish I wasn't? So many people. And it's sad. And what we really need to be doing is working out what will make us feel enough. And my thought on this is the word needs to change. Like, you can't feel enough. Because for people like me who don't really get the concept of enoughness, it's just the wrong word, you know? So I had this break. I took time off from seeing other people, and that was fun and shit simultaneously. Um, but it did take that pressure off from the hunt, which was so important, and it did give me chance to consider the idea that I might be enough as I am. And it meant that I got to meet my lovely boyfriend in a much more like chilled and just a less pressured way. I wouldn't have found him any other way because he wasn't going to be on dating sites. And I needed that very gentle approach of starting to see somebody new because I knew I was looking in the wrong places and for the wrong people. So beautiful, but still this concept of being enough has lingered on. And I think it's because it was just the wrong fucking word. It's the wrong word for me to try to be enough when I don't get the concept of what enough even is in my life. So I wanted to tell you about something that I went to at the weekend with my friend Claire Venus, who I talked about last week. Um, she bought me a ticket to go see Rebecca Campbell for my Christmas present. And that was last weekend. Now, I didn't know who Rebecca Campbell was because sometimes I live under a rock. It's just the way I am sometimes. And she has written a book called Your Soul Had a Dream, Your Life is It. And I was like, I'm clearly going to love that. It was something else, though, let me tell you. So we thought it would be her talking about her new book, what was going on around the time she was writing her book, maybe read some of her book chat. That's what we were expecting. What actually transpired is she took us into a 2 hour ceremony where we were healing our female ancestral line, just casually healing the wounds of the past with hundreds of other people in the same room. Now, aside from some of my thoughts around the actual event itself, the concept of going into ceremony was not a big deal for me. I've done this kind of thing many, many times. So I wasn't hugely surprised when we went into it. I'm like, cool, we'll do this. And I had already had a profound experience during my yoga teacher training where I'd already been back through my female line and had a wild experience with someone very far back who had been, I can't really think of a better term, she'd been abused. And it was really quite traumatic, but also quite healing, starting to understand what the threads were that came down my line. So it was really nice that I was able to go back and see her again and spend some time in that space. And the first time I met her, we were in a cave. So I was able to put myself back in a cave, which meant that I wasn't being hugely affected by the people around me. Because that going into ceremony like that, when you don't fully know who is holding the space, and you don't know what everybody else is bringing with them, did make me feel a bit nervous. I was like, this could get out of hand very easily. But thankfully it didn't. So that was really, really good. But the main, rather, I won't go through the whole of the 2 hour experience, but the thing that really came up for me right at the end was she was also asking us to hold this thread of our own lives. So this thread going back to childhood and kind of speaking to our childhood version of ourselves, asking them if they have a message, that kind of thing. And my younger self was kind of very much wanting me to stay connected to joy and being a bit silly because I just am. and to not be afraid of still turning up like that. So that was really beautiful. And then moving like up my line, I kind of, I'm processing it still, seeing because I'm yawning. I spoke to my older self and she was like, you're complete as you are. You're complete. And there was this feeling of like, but just because you're complete on your as you are, just because you're complete as you are, get my words out, doesn't mean that you're not worthy of love. So there was this thread of we are lovable as we are. We're allowed to be loved both by ourselves and the special people in our lives, but you're also complete. And there was also a piece around making sure that I communicate properly my needs and my dreams. So that was exciting. But that's why I'm thinking about this whole thing around enoughness, because I'm like, are you enough? Am I enough? Do I feel enough? Am I good enough? It's not something we can say yes to because we don't know what enough is, but we do know what complete means. Whole, complete, with all of our like history, the things that have happened in our lives, the chords that come out of us, the energetic things that are moving around, we're still complete as an individual, single person, complete, and we are worthy of love. And for the most part, when you've come out of a traumatic relationship and gone through a divorce, the only person who can really give you the love that you need and to reassure you that you are complete is yourself. So searching the way I was, trolling around on flipping Tinder and whatever else, that was never going to fulfill that need that I had to feel loved. And I had to take that time out to learn that. And it's taken me, what, another year and a half to go, oh, it was nothing to do with being enough. It was about feeling complete. So if you're feeling like you're not enough, I'd love you to go, fuck that shit. And what does enough even mean? And go, I'm complete. I'm complete and I'm doing my best. Because I feel like it just has such a different energy and it's going to allow us to pull in the information that we need so next time we can do even better, you know, like just pull in all the good stuff. Like I'm doing my best, I am complete, and I'm also open to learning more so that I can do even better next time if I can. And then on top of that, we're worthy of love, so we have to practice receiving it, whether it's us giving it to ourselves or allowing other people to give it to us. And I would say on top of this that it's really nice to connect back into that, like coming back to your center. So this week it was live guided meditation week over on Love Notes. And I just felt called to regroup, recenter. So we all kind of did our breathing, brought ourselves back to center, and then I took us through this guided meditation that really ground down our energy, and brought us back to center, because it's so easy to feel like we're being pulled in loads of different directions. So on Monday, it was guided meditation week, and I just felt really called to pull us back into this energy of centering. And I think it is this idea of we are completely as we are. So to keep remembering that when we're being pulled in so many different directions by loads of people and their energy and all the stuff that's going on for them, that we've got to come back to ourselves and connect back to our truth. Um, so yeah, that's over on Love Notes. If anybody wants to go and have a little look at that, you can use the preview or, come and be a member. You'd be so welcome. So that's it. Forget enough. Let's just be complete. Yay. All right. So I will leave you with some information, which is we are about to move into spring. Yes, I'm sitting here, the sun is shining, the sky is blue, it's flipping freezing, but it's 4:15 and the sun's fully up still. So moving into spring, I am a spring equinox baby, which means that my birthday falls on like the 20th of March, which is the beginning of spring. And I fully lean into all of the energy of spring. It is my new year. Like I'm okay with new year energy, but I love to tap into this like energy of abundance that is in the physical world. Like things are sprouting everywhere. The birds and the bees are doing their thing. Yeah, I love it. So the whole idea of we are re-emerging into the world is where I am taking all of the spring events that are coming up. And the first one is on the 10th of March. It's going to be a 1 hour workshop all around connecting into this spring energy a little bit before spring actually happens and just getting some real clarity on what it is that you want to achieve over the 3 months of spring. So what seeds do you want to plant and then to start manifesting into your life? So if you're not sure and you would like to come and join the workshop, it's only 15 quid and we'll get to hang out and do some, breathing together, some really great guided meditations and some journaling to get to the heart of what is really important for you right now that we can start calling in, because you're already complete as you are. We know that you are lovable and worthy of love. So what are you going to do next? I'm excited. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you again next week.